Good morning, everyone. This is the Vermont House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. It is Friday, January 9th, 2026 at 10:20 in the morning. We're back from the floor. And now we're here to continue discuss or start discussions on H 512, which is an act relating to the regulation of the event ticketing market. So this morning we have with us Susan Evans McClure, the Executive Director of the Vermont Arts Council. Susan, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Welcome back. I think you can still say that in the first week, right? I'm Susan Evans McClure. I'm the Executive Director of the Vermont Arts Council. I think we have had the opportunity to talk last year. The Arts Council is the state's arts funding agency. We receive support from the state of Vermont, from the National Endowment for the Arts, and from private donors that allow us to support the arts and culture statewide. Our focus as the state arts agency is really on making sure that creativity is at the heart of all of our communities, that we're using creativity to drive our economy, and that everyone has access to the arts. So today we're going to be talking specifically about people's access to the arts through buying tickets to shows they want to see. I'm going to start with a brief story. So to set the scene, the year was 2024. A woman in her early 40s learned that the Indigo Girls were playing at the Flynn. Of course, she was very excited. And on the day that ticket sales opened, she, a busy working mom, was walking down the street right here in Montpelier, popped out her phone and Googled Indigo Girls Flynn Burlington on her cell phone to buy the tickets before they sold out. She clicked on the first link that came up and also saw that the tickets starting price was $250. So she may love the Indigo Girls, folks, but she also loves buying groceries and paying her mortgage. So $250 tickets were just not on the table. She closed her phone, never saw the show with her good friend. Ladies and gentlemen, that woman was me. And, it turns out that, in fact, the hardest to learn really was the least complicated. Because when I asked the executive director of the Flynn about this a few weeks later, he softly told me, Susan, that was a fake website and you got tricked. And I realized that if I, the director of the Vermont Arts Council, didn't realize I was being faked by a fake website, who else was being harmed by this? What other people were deciding not to buy tickets, not to support our local arts organizations? Who was actually spending their hard-earned money in our state so that an anonymous out-of-state third party could make money off of the hard work of our local arts organizations? And obviously, this is not about me not seeing the Indigo Girls. I've seen them before. I will see them again. But this is really about how we as a state are supporting our performing arts organizations and the businesses that drive our local economies and bring our communities together. It's about how we're protecting Vermonters and consumers and fans across the state. So a group of performing arts organizations has been meeting regularly to share information on this topic over the past few years. A few common issues have been identified, some of which you heard about last year from folks. They include deceptive websites that use the logos of Vermont organizations to sell tickets, hugely inflated prices for resale tickets, tickets that are actually purchased with fake credit cards and then resold online to consumers, tickets that are sold for performances where tickets aren't even available yet. So it's clear that, the modern resale ticket market has gone way beyond a guy standing outside holding up two fingers. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about coordinated predatory online behavior. So you're going to hear today from Kevin Sweeney from the Flynn, their marketing director, who's right over here. I'll share a few other examples of things I found just with a quick Google this week. Tickets to see the band Moe at Higher Ground on sale for $48 from Higher Ground, being sold for $88 on Vivid Seats and $167 on StubHub. Tickets to see the UVM men's hockey team on January 23rd play against UMass. On sale from UVM for $28.75. The exact same section tickets on sale on Go Tickets for $52. I could go on and on with examples. We could all thought about asking you all to pull out your phones and look for that, but it would almost be too easy because it's everywhere. So we have also been working with national partners to understand what's happening nationally. This is not just a Vermont problem. And while national legislation would certainly be helpful, it's been made very clear that this is not something Congress is going to move forward on at this point. And as you will hear from Kevin, these protections really need to be put in place now because the situation is getting dramatically worse in a really rapid fashion. So since H512 was introduced last spring, the council has been working with the Attorney General's office to identify the real key issues that would have a meaningful impact for Vermonters. We did a real deep dive on bills that were passed in other states around the country. There have been many in the past years. And what we focused on was specifically pulling out the issues that are impacting Vermonters. We want to keep this bill tightly focused on addressing the issues that will really make a difference. It is not our intent to make things harder for Vermont's performing arts venues. It's also not actually our intent to outlaw ticket reselling or squash competition. We've all bought tickets to things and things happen, right? You get sick, other plans come up. No one should be punished for not being able to use the ticket they purchased. But our focus with this is really on implementing common sense guardrails that will protect consumers and small businesses in our economy. So there's a few key areas that we would love to see in H512, and I'll talk about those now, and then you'll kind of see them in practice from what Kevin's going to share. The first is a 10% cap on secondary ticket exchange. Currently, there is no limit on what tickets can be sold for. I just did some kind of inflated examples. Another example beyond my $250 Indigo Girls tickets. The unfortunate final game of the UVM men's soccer season, those tickets sold for $18 if you bought them from UVM. The next day, they were being sold online for $300. And yes, they could go on and on. So really what price caps do, they're a measure that disincentivizes resellers from selling tickets at tremendous markups. Price caps don't set the original ticket price. Performance venues in Vermont should have the independence to set the ticket price that is right for them. Price caps regulate the abusive resale ticket market, and that market now has no relationship to real demand. Often you'll see examples online saying like sold out, few tickets left. The tickets are not sold out. That's not a demand issue. Predatory resale is not actually competition. It's manipulation, and it's extracting money from fans and draining revenue from local venues. So that price cap is really a key measure that we think will disincentivize this bad behavior. We also want to see a ban on deceptive URLs and improper use of intellectual property. Deceptive websites are out there. They're entrapping Vermont consumers. And we all know, and I'm sure you've heard about in other issues related to this, enforcement of deceptive marketing online can be very difficult to enforce. But what we have heard from other states will happen when we do this is when we ban deceptive URLs at the state level, that allows them to go to the search engines, Yelp, Google, and tell them, hey, you guys are directing people to websites that are illegal in the state of Vermont. So that's really important to us. Right now, you'll see this with Kevin's examples. They're using Vermont logos, Vermont identity to sell tickets through companies, organizations, people that are not based in Vermont. We also feel that it's important to have reseller registration and reporting requirements. Vermont consumers really deserve to know if they're buying from the primary seller in the venue or if they're buying through the resale market. One of the many challenges we're experiencing right now is not only do you not know if it's a resale site, there's also no way to contact the reseller. So if that reseller has incorrect information up there, the venues want to correct that. I mean, their primary thing, even through all of this, all of our venues are really focused on fans and consumers, and they want them to have a good experience no matter where they're buying their tickets. But right now, they can't even get in touch with them. We also have heard from other states the importance of having not allowing people to sell tickets before they exist. Like the tickets need to be real before you can resell them. So that's another piece of it. We also want to engage in a consumer education campaign. We know that legislation is only one lever to improve this situation. Consumers really need to know more about the legal requirements and the channels they have for contesting any issues. We know that consumer education alone will not solve this. Regulation will not solve it. It's in combination that we're going to make the biggest difference. And we've heard from folks, especially in the Consumer Protection Bureau, around how people's behavior changes when it's illegal. Right now, I mean, I outed myself and I told all of you that I got tricked. I'm a certain kind of person. Nobody wants to do that, right? You feel like an idiot. But if you are told, hey, this was illegal, it's not your fault, you're actually more likely to report that as well, which will also increase the number of times we can see that this is happening. And of course, for any of this to work, we need to have teeth and be enforceable. When I spoke to colleagues in Minnesota and Maine about their legislation, they both said that enforcement is a real key piece of this. And our Attorney General's office needs to be empowered to enforce this law. So we're asking for this to be that the bill should treat violations as unfair practice under existing Vermont law. So Vermont's independent live entertainment industry is a crucial part of our economy. The overall creative economy in our state produces $1.2 billion of our state's GSP every year. Independent performance venues alone are producing almost $100 million of our state's economy, 92.6 million from a study that was conducted last year. So H512 is a really crucial step in protecting those small businesses and protecting consumers and protecting our communities. I think we all need more opportunities now to gather with our neighbors, and performances and public events are really the best way to do that. Where else are you going to be sitting next to someone who maybe you've never met or you have nothing in common with besides that you are both desperate Indigo Girls fans? I'm not sure if you want me to take questions now or hear from Kevin, but happy to do either, whatever works for the committee.
See if there's any questions to this point. Abby?
Oh, yeah, quick question. Well, to start with, as someone who came of age in 1988, I praise for the lyrics
We're noticing.
in the
I was
lyrics.
wondering.
I actually couldn't stop thinking about them. So a question about, so when you say the enforcement of violations would just go into regular consumer protection, it would be based on the current consumer protection law. Got it.
Yes, and we are asking that enforcement have penalties of up to $10,000 per violation, which is standard with some of the other states. You're going to hear shortly from Todd Dalis in the Attorney General's office, and he'll probably have more specifics on how that would work in their office.
Right.
And he's heading over here now.
Oh, good. He's coming.
Yeah, he's coming right after us.
Super. Thank you.
So StubHub is when I think of like getting tickets, I feel like StubHub would be a place that I could go and trust. But clearly, I mean,
There are StubHub is actually one of many examples that are that their business model is based on not having regulations around the amount that you can resell the tickets for. They have a fee associated with that that's linked with the cost of the ticket. And there are some, I mean, Ticketmaster is complicated in its own way. There are some platforms that Ticketmaster, you can resell your tickets through Ticketmaster, and they have so if you go, I was trying to buy Celtics tickets for March, and they're sold on Ticketmaster, and you can go in and you can choose to buy resold tickets on there, but you can clearly see how the price compares to the original price tickets. That's not the model for the other resale companies, I mean.
and you mentioned that if we were to just ban, mimic sites, Google would shut that down, or other search engines would shut that down. Has that happened in other states?
I mean, ideally, they would shut that down, right? It'll be a bit of a manual process. I think it's an important piece of the puzzle, right? Like you can't do any one of these things would be like helpful, but they kind of all, because the problem is so multifaceted and involves issues around not only search engines, but the search engine kind of ad functions and what gets promoted first and all of those things, that it is an important piece of it because it gives us just a little more leverage to say, hey, what you're promoting is not legal in Vermont.
Questions for Susan? Thought it was interesting when I was driving in this morning, listening to Vermont Public, and they had a story on Ticketmaster, and there's a class action suit in Quebec.
Yeah.
And how Port of Montreal has allowed that to go forward, on a consumer protection, under a consumer protection law. And it's dealing with the amount of revenue that they're generating over and above the ticket costs.
Yeah, and there was before 2025, there was a federal, actually maybe, I don't know if you want to talk more about that. There was some attempt to do a federal court case against Ticketmaster. It's kind of stalled along the way. And there are other federal laws that already are attempting to protect some of these things, right? There's something called the Bots Act that does already make it illegal to use bots for ticket purchases, which means that's if you have a software system that basically you can say, buy all the tickets to the Indigo Girls at the Flynn, and they will, and then they can resell all those tickets on another site. So that's already illegal. So we also worked closely to identify like what's already outlawed federally or in our state, and what are the things that are still broken in this system that we need to add on a little more to fix.
I just want to say I appreciate the clear recommendations. It's incredibly helpful.
Agreed.
So I'm just curious, I'm under the impression that sometimes an event or will enter into an agreement with a retailer. And I'm wondering how this fits in with that. With the idea of an authorized reseller.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's true or not, I suppose you don't know, but what if they do have an actual agreement?
So the legislation in Maine addressed that, and they said basically if you already have a contract with an authorized reseller, and sometimes venues will choose to do that, and that is not uncommon at all, right? If you're a venue, you might say like, oh, direct people to resell at a certain another site. The Maine law said if you already have that contract, that's fine, and if it's already happening, it's already happening. So what we're really looking at are these kind of more anonymous third parties that you don't know where they came from. You don't know who they are. They're selling fake tickets. Again, what we're really not looking to do is make things harder for venues, for organizations, for people who are already selling tickets. If that is working for you, great. I mean, especially because it's more upfront, right? And I believe in the consumers, right? If you go to a venue and you're buying a ticket and they are recommending, hey, buy a resale. We're sold out, but buy a resale ticket here. And those resale tickets are $1,000. That's going to look pretty bad for that original venue. And that's going to impact consumers too. So venues really don't have a reason to send people to be paying 10, 15, 100 times more than they would have for the original ticket.
Did you all look into like the sort of process on the back end of essentially selling tickets on spec?
Yes. And so that is one of the things actually, it's not in the recommendations that you see in the one pager, but in the conversations over the past week, something that's really come up among other states and hearing from other folks more in Vermont is that like the Maine law and a lot of the others have banned speculative ticket sales because what happens is, and actually I think Kevin might share an example of that. They're selling tickets that are not even on sale yet. And so that just, I mean, I'm thinking about that in the real world, right? That would be like me walking up to someone and being like, I have a cake to sell you. No one has baked the cake. The cake, you cannot see the cake. The cake doesn't exist, but I'm going to tell you how much it is and you're going to buy it. That's just like not how it works in the world. So yes, banning the speculative ticket sales is something that we've talked about and actually is something that I talked about with a colleague in Maine yesterday, and she was really advocating. She actually runs the State Theater in Maine, which is co-owned by the owners of Higher Ground in Vermont. They also own a venue in Portland, Maine. And she was talking about really the importance of banning speculative ticket sales. So that just came up yesterday after I sent in my information. So we're going to send some recommended updates around speculative ticket sales too.
I have one little like nuance thing, and I don't know if it falls into exactly the same thing, but I have had the experience of purchasing a ticket that like the event had been released, the tickets were on sale, but the reseller did not have the tickets in their possession and they were selling them online.
Yes, that is a lot of the other state legislation has covered that and has said that that should be outlawed as well, that you have to have the ticket before you can sell it.
Is that different than speculative tickets?
It's the same thing. It's like speculative tickets and tickets in hand. It's usually listed as the same thing.
I just want more of a comment. I really want to enunciate that the education piece of this is key. When you are dealing with the internet, it's an arms race. And with the advancement of AI, it's only going to get worse. If Facebook can give me a vacuum cleaner ad when I just talked to my wife about it an hour ago, I'm sure we can use that. So when people go on the internet, do Google searches for ticket sales, some sort of PSA from the state saying, hey, maybe you should take a look at this. Are you really buying from a legitimate site? But I think the education piece of this is very, very important. The only way this is really going to be solved is if we teach people how to find it, teach people how to recognize that this is that this may be fake and do something about it. Because they'll always be, we can make all the laws in the world. It's not going to matter. Someone is always going to beat us out.
And having the same language for all of the venues across the state in coordination with the Consumer Protection Bureau is also really important. And to have state regulations that back that up is also like really closes that link. Again, as we talked about consumer behavior, right? You're more likely to report that if you think that it's not you, it's illegal. Like you didn't do anything wrong. This is not allowed. And then you're more likely to report it, leading to those consumer behavior changes in the future that we really need to.
Even the 10% proposed and other states have put those price caps on as well.
Yes, that was one of the things from the main bill. I can get you a whole list of who's done price cap. That and 10% is standard in those other states too. And really why I started with that and why that's really key to us is if you disincentivize people from marking up as much as they want, a lot of these other problems also diminish, right? You're less likely to build a fake website if you know that you can only sell it for 10% above the price that was paid for it.
How long has, do you know how long these other states have had their laws in place?
Most of them have come into existence in the past 2 to 3 years. The Maine law just passed last year, and I was again speaking with someone from the State Theater yesterday, and she said that they have seen a dramatic decrease in issues since then. If you're interested, she said she would be willing to come and talk to you all about that experience and what she's seen in Maine. That it was, I mean, they track this closely. You'll see when you hear from Kevin, everyone's tracking this because it's such a problem. And they saw it just really drop off after the bill. And there's still, exactly as you're saying, there's still challenges, but it was a dramatic decrease.
Have there been any challenges to these laws and restricting commerce or any sort of basis that some of these scammers might dream up?
Yeah, not as far as I've seen so far, again, they are new. When they have passed, they're still being enacted, and that is, I have not heard that. I'm not going to say that there aren't because they are happening. There's bills all over the country, so I can definitely look into that to see and report back about that too. But who has done price caps and legal pushback?
You could send contact information for the person.
Yeah. Sure.
No, they don't have to come here, but I mean, they.
I offered.
Welcome to. But they can do it remotely as well.
Yeah, she did mention that going to Augusta, which is the state capital of Maine, was a bit of a schlep from Portland, so it's probably not going to come to Montpelier.
No, it's turning into a weekend.
I know, she could have a meeting with higher ground, they could all be together.
Here's a sample of tourism.
Exactly. You could also be bringing visitors to the visitor economy in Vermont through this process.
Maybe there'll be something good at the Flint or the Paramount.
Exactly.
Relationships.
And I did want to also thank the committee members for, folks who have signed on to this bill and people who originated it from this committee, that it is really very gratifying. I mean, people in our sector have been so happy to know that the legislature is talking about this, because it also gives that, these organizations are really busy. Some of them are operating on a shoestring, and to know that the legislature is even thinking about this is really validating for them too. So we've heard that from folks as well. So thank you for doing that.
I remember first time we took this up quite a few years ago, talking about this same issue, but it was just, this stuff was just emerging, really taken off.
Yeah. And unfortunately, as you'll hear from Kevin, it's even in the past, since you heard from him last spring, there's been dramatic increases in how the negative impact that's having.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to share Kevin's presentation actually from the beginning. Oh no, you're getting a sneak peek. There you go. You should be able to just click through. Yep.
Thank you, Susan Hood. I'm Kevin Sweeney, and I brought with me Jill Severin, who is our fraud specialist here for the Flynn. So we have someone working, as I mentioned last time, at least 20 hours a week, every week, just on addressing and identifying these. Before I get into the entire piece, I just want to address something that came up regarding StubHub. And you all realize StubHub, Ticketmaster, and Live Nation are all one company. Live Nation is a presenter, producer. They go around and book venues. They put a lot of pressure on the venues to sell tickets through Ticketmaster. And when I was working at a Ticketmaster venue prior to coming to Vermont, I've been doing theater marketing now for over 15 years. That venue, actually, we would see a huge sell out of a show. I get like Dave Chappelle is a great example, sold out in a few hours. Within minutes of the sellout, resale tickets started showing up on our site and they were all StubHub. And it was a Ticketmaster website. So just so you understand that business model, they are making money hands over fist. I just want to go, Susan already mentioned, it's scalping then and now. My brother got busted for reselling Sox tickets back in the day out in front of Fenway Park. People don't sell them in front of the venue. As a matter of fact, I would say today, it's like these resellers have built a huge wall between the venue and the consumer that they have to get through the resale first. So the suggestion of doing heavy promotion to make sure people are buying from valid sites will be an expensive one because of the amount of money they spend on Google ad search and Bing search. So we don't sell to StubHub. We don't sell to ticketsales.com. We don't sell to any of those. We sell to individuals. So there's actually two parties making additional revenue on this. The person who buys the tickets and the resale site. So I think that's important to note. Someone who purchases tickets will frequently not only put them on one site, they'll do multiple sites and put them on different prices and do whatever they can to maximize their return on investment. And then resale sites, they invest a lot of money in Google AdWords. The Flynn cannot compete at that level. But I also want to note that the Flynn forces people who purchase tickets, whether by phone, we read them a statement, if by phone, but online, they have to click a box. And that's just one I've circled. It says they know the date and the daytime price. They agree to the policies that I'm not buying these tickets for resale. I'm also not going to provide fraudulent information. Now, I bring that up because one of the things that Jill discovered in her work was that there was actually a street address in LA that was using multiple different names and multiple different credit cards buying tickets for resale. So this has become a major business on both sides. And also note, this is regardless, as Susan mentioned, before we even put them on sale, they show up. So it's not like it was back at Fenway when you go like, well, I'm not going to spend $50 for that because I can go over to the window here. There's still tickets available. They do it regardless if it's sold out or not. But, yes.
With the checkbox that you have on your agreements, number one, have you found people that have gone against that?
Every day.
And then number two, how do you deal with that?
What we do, I'll jump into it. What we do actually is we reach out to them when we can identify, and we are probably estimating identifying maybe half. When we identify, we send them an email, say we suspect you purchased these for resale. Please reach out to us confirming that the person named on this will be utilizing these tickets. You have 1 week, 2 weeks. They don't get back to us. The next one is we are refunding your tickets. We are going back and refunding. And one thing to keep in mind here, that's revenue the state and local municipalities lose out on because we also have to refund the taxes. We started keeping the fees though, so you get that money because that's one of the things we attest. But all the time, very rarely will they come out and go, okay, usually they'll fight us on it. They'll come back saying you can't do that. And that just adds the amount of staff labor that goes in addressing these.
So if this bill comes to fruition and gets passed, governor signs it, is there something else that you put on that little checkbox that's prosecuted to the fullest extent?
Absolutely. I think that's the key aspect of it, that we can actually fall back on the state's regulations stating about here's the rules and requirements. And in that situation, like if there is like a 10% cap on markup, we would probably sit back and even remove the reselling because that's not the profit that we're concerned about. Like we have people contact us all the time and saying, I'm sick, I can't make it. And in those situations, we don't give them their money back. I mean, obviously, but we do say, well, you can resell them on Front Porch Forum. You can resell them on other sites, local sites, but we request that you sell them for the amount of money that you paid. Of course, we can't enforce that. But we don't restrict resale 100%. We allow it for people who can't make events. But this, as Susan noted, like we've subscriptions for the Music Man we started selling. This is one of the worst sites. Let's see which one I have in my notes. Game Time. That's out there, the way they advertise, but they have, I don't know if you can see, it's $798 on prices for tickets to see the Music Man. Subscribers, no subscriber paid more than $100 for that ticket. So that gives you an idea of the margins. We brought up StubHub. Here's a great example, Book of Mormon tickets. This was up, this has been up frequently, but they were up literally within a week of us putting tickets on sale. StubHub was up heavy promotion to buy tickets. So they're actually, by doing this, they're incentivizing that guy sitting on his computer to buy tickets and put them up on the website. This I found very interesting, though, Local Arena Ticks. I don't know what this is. So here's somebody who says, hey, this is a big business. I want to get into it. So he's an aggregator basically going, hey, you come to me, you place one set of tickets and we'll put them on all your sites for you. And wait to see how many sites there are. So here's an idea of just what we have for resale sites. There's several more than last time I came.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's how much money can be made. There's over 50. And 20 of these did not exist last spring. At least I didn't find them last spring. So there's people trying to maximize their profits. And they're still adding. That's what they end more. But yeah, the tickets, Book of Mormon one specifically, I went right to the producers and go, guys, can they do this? And they're going, yeah, there's nothing we can do to stop that. So just so you know, they're trying. But here, let's talk about why this is so important. They're advertising lowest or best price. They don't identify themselves as not being the primary ticket source. They will use things like limited availability, buy now, we only have 2 tickets remaining. And as Susan mentioned, they advertise tickets not on sale yet. They do, I'll have a great example here of someone using our marquee right on the top of their page to make it look like it's the Flynn. And the stolen credit cards. And that's another huge issue for us because, well, I'll tell you when I talk, but selling the same tickets multiple times. And we've seen that too. Somebody comes in, they check into the venue, and the next person who has those same tickets comes in and goes, I'm sorry, you're already checked in. And in those situations, this is a money loss I don't have putting on that. The Flynn will replace those tickets free to those people. Because again, consumers are, our audiences are what keep us going. So we do our best to take away their bad experience. But I did this little social media Facebook clip, sorry for the, that this person actually says, hey, it's the cheapest price I've seen. And we have it on our social media post. And I'm saying, yeah, but it's the right price because of the search engine question. Here's a great example. SeatGeek, experience live with the best prices on seats for Nico Case. So I went to their site. They had tickets at 102, including the fees in row W. Those tickets in row W are actually, where's my note? $60, and with fees less than 76. It's blatantly false. But then they can get into the argument, what does best mean? Well, we're the best price on resellers, right? So this is where language has to be so specific. I'm sorry, whose question?
Do you report those to Facebook when not that Facebook really cares that much about?
This is coming in through Google Analytics and search. So I have a search for the Flynn. I get these every single day. And it really irritates me when I see one for a show we just announced the day before. Tickets haven't gone on sale yet. There's really nothing we can report them on right now because, Meta is going to take their advertising revenue. Here's another example, Patty Griffin tickets on Game Time, that one I showed you at Music Man. They do say lowest price guaranteed. There's tickets for this are anywhere from 377 on up. Our highest ticket price with all our fees was under $90. So another example of, and as you're going through, look how they don't note that they're a reseller. This one does note they're a reseller. If you look at the very top of the page. Are you really? Right here. Right.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah. So to Susan's point, likely there was that on the page, but it's so small. In my opinion, and I think what to be effective, they should be mandated even their advertising to note they're a ticket reseller. So again, they have everything lined up at box office ticket sales that we have scheduled coming up through the rest of our season. Book of Mormon tickets on a site called Hello Tickets. There's nothing noted about them being a resale site. Also on Vivid Seats, doesn't know they're on a resale site. So if legislation isn't specific that every single page on your site must note that you're a resale site, they might put it on a homepage and then direct link you to pages like this to buy the tickets.
Sorry to bother again. Is it possible to well, I guess anything is possible, right? To mandate that as they're paying for it, it says you are paying this much more as a convenience fee, $100, $200, $300.
Well, if we limit it to 10% more, then they
don't
won't
have
have
to
to
worry
pay
about
that
And it
much.
doesn't matter, yeah.
Again, just another one with not noting they're a resale site. So it's our major concern, venue brand. We don't know how many people go through what Susan experienced with tickets for the Indigo Girls. First-time buyers are going to be very unlikely to go right to our website. They are going to Google, as Susan did. So we don't know how much business we're actually losing as a result of this. And it also gives us, I've been on social media discussing it in comments with people who say, oh, you're just for the rich people. You're just for the wealthy. We can never afford and it's like, as that previous post noted, they're seeing these exceptionally high prices and they think we're the ones driving those. By the way, it's usually the producers who set the price anyway. All we're trying to do is cover our expenses as a not-for-profit. And then the perception of value is too expensive and the venue investment to address reselling. And I'll touch on that. But I've been at the Flynn for 3 years, so I'm going over our last 3 years. When I came and noticed what a problem it was, we identified that year 140,000 in ticket resales, 33,000 we refunded back. So you see, I think it's not only growing, but we're also get better at detecting, to Jill's credit. So fiscal 24, 182, caught 131. Last year, 238, and we caught 172. This has really helped, especially we catch it in advance, because typically with the credit card money that we're losing out on, that happens after show settlement, which we pay the producer. Now we're hoping 10% of total sales is what we recoup, 10 to 15 to come back, cover our venue expenses. We lose all that money. That's 100% loss for us.
Well, that drives your ticket prices up, right? You got to recoup it somewhere. You can't keep going and losing money all the time. You've got to be able to cover your expenses.
It is.
You have to.
We have to up our fees. We've been upping our fees for it. But here's our credit card losses. And you see last year how much more it grew. And this is our fiscal year, which runs from July through June. So that's of June, the 15,837 was as of this past June. Our cost, in addition to Jill, obviously I spend time on it. Our patron services manager spends time on it. Our house staff spends time on it. We estimate, and I think it is very conservative, to the low extent, 50,000 a minimum a year that we are spending to address this. We don't have 50,000 to spend on that. That's a full-time person we could bring in to do programming that we really want to do. I think, as I stated last time I was here, one of the key elements for the Flynn and our long-term goals are to make all the arts more accessible. We did the piece down in Montpelier, here with Kubo last fall. That was a $200,000 investment for us. We want to continue to bring arts to people, make it affordable, but we need to maintain the foundation that drives our revenue, which is our building and our presented and produced shows. So, any questions from me and Jill? She's by far the person in the weeds who's the expert on all this.
Anything you can do as far as the issue with credit cards, stolen cards?
We are going through right now a CRM upgrade. So it's our ticketing, includes our ticketing system under that. And there are a couple of new options that we're looking at. Unfortunately, the options that we look at means there's going to be additional clicks for people to purchase tickets. So that's also, we can take those actions. It would be a lot easier for us to be protected. We also are using some new verification systems that we're hoping minimizes that.
Questions, Kevin?
Thanks.
Good morning.
Morning.
How y'all doing?
Good.
It's good to see you. Todd Delos from the Attorney General's office. I just am pausing for a moment after that presentation, which I think carries home the entire point. This was an issue that was on the radar for the AG's office, something we'd looked at, especially, as you can imagine, this committee knows this as well as anyone, those fraudulent sites, those misstatements, those deceptive advertisements. Clearly something within the existing Consumer Protection Act. But the Arts Council's leadership on this, Representative Harrison's leadership, sort of crystallized it for us. And we are very much in support of the direction that 512 hopefully is taking within this committee. I don't want to eat up a lot of your time. I don't think I have a lot more to say, except on the one hand, we see most of these violations as clear violations of the CPA as it exists, but that doesn't mean there's a place to provide additional regulation, additional protection, additional oversight in this rapidly changing marketplace that has a tremendous impact on Vermont businesses, on Vermont consumers, and on the arts as they're available in Vermont, all of which, we obviously support. So I could go into a little more detail. The language that's proposed in the Arts Council's sheet is what you all are very familiar with, a simple call out to the existing protections in Chapter 63 of Title IX that just bring us into the fold.
And you've seen proposal that Susan has brought to us today.
Is that what you sent me yesterday? Yes. Happy to. I don't have any direct edits on it now, but
we'll have to run it through the council as well. But Susan, you're going to send us.
I'll send you an updated one that includes the speculative ticket provision, and we'll talk about that before we can send it over.
I just want to make sure the legislation, are we going to, you feel you're going to be able to collect enough fines to cover your costs?
It's a great question. And I think it's one that we're going to be talking about here and down the hall and upstairs. It's a real challenge in the current moment. There's a lot of pressure on our office, and not to step in front of the budget that'll be coming this way, but we're trying to recognize the moment we're in as a state and keep our requests pretty narrow. But we also know, especially, I don't mean to jump into next week, but the advancements in big tech, we see the pressures that are on Vermont consumers. We see even beyond consumers, the use of that data. And with the AG in a position of primary enforcement authority, you're totally right that there's a real pressure there. And one of the challenges with the websites, for example, those are really hard to track down. I mean, this, right? Like they're really hard to track down and carry that investigation out to fruition. It's hard to find a corporate entity or a responsible party. The bigger players, I think we will be able to work with, and I think, for the most part, the regulated industries are good partners, for lack of a better term, when we have a meaningful case to bring to them. The bigger challenges are the fly-by-night scammers. And I think that's why your point about education is vital.
Yeah.
I think we see that in partnership. CAP is a great organ for that, the Consumer Assistance Program. And I think working with Secretary of State's office as well would be really valuable, but I can't promise it. We'd love to be able, it's a double-edged sword, right? We'd love to not have to enforce because we're seeing compliance and hopefully with increasing limitation on the profit margin, we'll see a decrease in the desire to scam. But we know it's always going to be out there for people. And I think it'll take some time to figure out how to put these cases together and how meaningful the relief we're able to get for Vermont businesses, Vermont consumers actually is.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about this, sorry.
Yeah, no, the reason I bring it up is because if we have any sort of control over fine recommendations, want to make sure we get your input and make sure we can cover it with fines. Because from what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like it's going to be too big of a problem finding a lot of people that are breaking the law.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rep. Nicholas. And I think that I don't think we would ask for deviation from the 10,000 per violation. I mean, if you imagine a site, any number of those, we could and would in certain instances consider every offer of sale a violation. So I can't remember how many seats are in the Flynn, right? So I'm not going to do public math.
That's all right.
Multiply that by 10,000. Maybe the show's got a 6-show run. So I think there's ample opportunity. And again, I think the regulated entities by and large will follow the law because it's in their best business interest. And then the ones that don't, that's the role of the AG to come in potentially and come after. But I appreciate those questions because I do think they're germane to other topics that this committee and the body as a whole will be addressing.
Back in my earlier days here, when we were looking at fraud, there was something that we had done, know your customer. And so if Google is still allowing these sites to be put up in Vermont when there's a law against it, they need to know their customer. And if they have the information that they're selling against Vermont law, then they have an obligation to do something about it. If we can't get to the site, the people that own the site, then we can get to Google.
Mm-hmm.
Or the search or whatever search engine we can use, right?
Yeah, I don't know how Section 230 plays into that. I can imagine I'm not going to provide them any legal defense that they aren't already well aware of, but I think there are some concerns around whether those kind of aggregation sites would say this is just, they're using our platform, we're not saying this.
It's a typical what we continue to hear, but
I mean, I think it's a good angle to look at, and I think with a little bit more reflection, I imagine we can come up with some models elsewhere in the commerce regulation field that do hold platforms accountable in some measure.
I think, of course. I mean, I think that it's making me think of Silk Road, right? That it's legal if we make it illegal and they're doing illegal activity on their platform.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're involved in the legal activity, they're still responsible for allowing it on their platform. I mean, Silk Road, Napster, I mean, there's certainly case law against it. I don't know.
It's certainly worth.
we'll have Ledge Council have those discussions with you and see what we can find out. But there may be another way to skin the cat too.
Was for Susan, is that okay?
Sorry, Tom, I'm redirecting traffic. But actually would love your thoughts on this too. I'm just like, I guess where my head is going is if we as a state and taxpayers, so if we're funneling public dollars, and then in the state choosing where to invest those, and we are choosing to give money to like Vermont Arts Council and things like that, that then gets regranted or through tourism or whatever to our creative venues, it feels like we should, if the creative venues are then having to spend money refunding and that kind of stuff, like it feels like we need to protect the investment of public dollars that we're putting into creative venues. But
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, one of the other things about this to mention is this is an issue that is uniting for-profits and nonprofits, right? There's for-profit performance venues and nonprofits. They are all facing this. When it comes to, I think a direct example of this, what we hear from nonprofits is the most meaningful thing you can do is unrestricted operating support. And we have seen that time and again, when we invest dollars in organizations because we trust them and they do great work, amazing things happen. What we don't want to see is an unfortunate incident when your unrestricted operating support from the state has to go to cover people who are doing something they shouldn't be doing in the first place.
Right.
As exactly as you're saying, that's not what we want to see public dollars going to. And to Kevin's point, $50,000 a year that they're spending could be a staff person in their education department who is helping to close the gap in arts education across the state. Or any number of other amazing things that they could be putting that money towards.
And I just want to, you guys are pretty large, right? The Flynn is a pretty large venue. Opera House is pretty small, and I had actually reached out to Dan Casey, and he said they're struggling with this as well. So it's not just the large venues, it's the smaller ones.
Yeah, that is very true. We asked Kevin here today specifically because I knew their numbers were this is something they've been really tracking. Jill exists as a step person who's focused on this. We have a coalition of arts organizations across the state of all sizes who are experiencing this. Yeah, I could name all of them, right? Here, Catamount, Barry Opera House. You name a public sale of a ticket, we can give you an example of where this is happening. And the Flynn does have staff to do this. There's organizations that absolutely do not and are getting pulled in the wrong direction with their limited staff time too.
Like I know the Paramount, they're quite a big thing. We had staff in 30s full time. Paramount, I think they have 6, 7. So, and they're getting hit with this as well. We all are. And I mean, silly events even are getting hit up on these types of things, little local family type of things.
I will share one story that was shared with me from Eric Millett at the Paramount that was so heartbreaking. He walked through the lobby one day and he saw that there was someone in the lobby talking to the box office. She was a grandmother who had bought tickets to the Nutcracker to see her granddaughter, and she bought them online from a different site, from an exorbitant amount of money, learned that they were fake, came to the Opera House and said, I bought these fake tickets. And they said, there's absolutely nothing we can do. The show is sold out and we can't refund your money. And we're really sorry. And she rightly, with the only people to get outraged at are the people you're talking to, right? These websites are completely anonymous. You have no idea who's doing this. So she was really, I mean, she didn't get to see her granddaughter in the Nutcracker. Like, what is more heartbreaking than that? And she was really mad. And of course, not only was she upset in that moment, missed an incredible opportunity, but also like she's never buying a ticket at the Paramount again. Because that's the only face that she has for this negative interaction. So I think that's one example of hundreds and hundreds that we could name across the state.
Susan, was the Paramount also the venue that was doing free movies and found those tickets for sale online? So just to give you an idea, this is very aggressive profiteering.
Yeah, so picking up on the cost of enforcement kind of issue. And I believe under the Consumer Protection Act, you have the ability to recoup coupons after a violation has been found. And so you can pick up on that. Do you have, I don't know if you do have any ability to, if you're starting an investigation and you have good reason, to conduct that investigation, do you have any mechanism to bill back the cost of that investigation, help with your cash flow, that kind of thing?
I'm just trying to remember the statutory citation on, essentially, under the law, our authority is via court order to recoup costs, which include attorney's fees and beyond. We use that when we're negotiating a settlement, but there is no authority independent of that end product. And so when we're negotiating with an opposing party, it's in lieu of litigation that could result in a much higher cost structure. So there is no billback structure.
Yeah, I'm just sort of.
I think in the sense that you mean, where it's pre-litigation and in fact may have a lower threshold than us proving a violation or convincing an opposing party that there's a violation.
And, you know, you might have information showing that a particular practice might be common to a number of different resellers, perhaps. And so it's not, you're not thinking about specific litigation about particular, but you're looking for a practice and that you think, would violate the law. I know the other regulatory agencies have that authority. Just thought I'd bring it up.
Appreciate it.
Just because it's on my mind, a realtor, there's a law that says that whenever we put a property up for sale, we have to conspicuously demonstrate that we have to conspicuously put our broker's name. And I know a lot of people have gotten violations, so I just wanted to throw that out there as an idea. I think that's a great starting point for us to make it that same law of, if you're going to be a reseller site, you need to conspicuously say, I am a reseller site.
Is conspicuously defined?
Or you can.
I mean, it's defined in real estate statutes.
You
So,
can tell them what font you want it to be.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, in the size.
yeah, I mean, I think in real estate, it's pretty, it just says conspicuous. I mean, I've always been a good boy, so.
We've done quite a few things where we specified the font size.
Yeah,
Or said not less than the XYZ font.
Be bold in bold print.
And we have some of our regulations under the Consumer Protection Act have specific what clear and conspicuous means for various different ones. So it's a great additional idea.
Any other questions for any of our presenters? Okay, great. So Susan will look forward to getting the revised version. We'll get that to Ledge Council. We'll talk to Ledge Council, have them work with you, Todd. I think, what I was referring to before on that, know your customer, I think it was with telephone companies.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that.
Right.
Also, banking.
Banking already has, yes, but that's not, but in the consumer protection realm, they had some telephone scams going on. It was like some in Montreal or whatever, and telling telephone companies, you need to know your customer. And if they couldn't get the money out of the scammer, then they got it out of the telephone company.
Definitely worth us looking into.
Yeah. Okay, I think we were planning on having a hearing on data privacy on the 21st, but that's got moved to the 4th. So I think we'll dedicate that morning of the 21st to this bill. And if we'll get the language done, we'll certainly take more testimony. Any of the businesses that are providing these resale outlet want to testify, they're more than welcome to come in as well. We'll see what we can come up with. But, okay.